You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. It's great to have you here today. I'm excited that you are joining me here for the weekend edition of the show, where we go through our community's questions. We call these our house calls. It's my opportunity to step into your home, be able to answer your question, and try to give you the answer that I would share with you if I was sitting across from you on Skype or in my office or wherever we might bump into each other on the street, because I'm talking health and fitness and wellness and mindset pretty much 24/7. So it's a great opportunity for me. I love what I do, and I love to be able to share my experience with you. We've now, my team and I, and it is a team effort. It's not just me. We've seen over 250,000 people in our practice from all different walks of life, people all over the world. It is a global practice. Even though we ship to 19 countries around the world, we've spoken with people in pretty much every country, really around the world over the past now, almost 20 years, not quite 20 years, but also from a functional medicine perspective, about a decade. So excited to be able to share some of those tips with you today. Whenever possible, I do always refer you to additional resources, right? Because in a couple-minute answer, I can't answer everything, but I absolutely will, to the best of my ability, get you started. So looking forward to that. Want to really send you now to the questions. So let's dive right in. If you'd like to read along with the questions, I always recommend that. You can head on over to stephencabral.com/1290. All right, let's get right into it. Darren is up first. Hey, Dr. Cabral, great show as always. I listen to Joe Rogan's podcast interview with Dr. David Sinclair, an anti-aging specialist. He says he uses NMN, Resveratol, NAD, fasting, Metformin, Sauna, cryotherapy, running, avoids meat protein. I know you espouse similar ideals with those recommendations. However, with regard to Metformin, you say it's safe to use while adopting. I think it should say, would you say it's safe to adopting while adopting the lifestyle recommended, the rain barrel effect on your show? Are there any major drawbacks? As always, keep up the great work. All right. Yeah, I'm actually a fan of Dr. David Sinclair. I'm a fan of brilliant people, and he happens to be one of those brilliant people, for sure. He is I believe he works really right down the street from me in Cambridge at MIT. He's a scientist and researcher there. The main products he was talking about were nicotinamide mononucleotide. I'll be talking a bit more about this in the future. I'm working on an anti-aging based formula right now that gives the precursors to nicotinamide, to NAD. So he doesn't use NAD. I just want to correct that. He uses the precursors to NAD. What I always recommend with the human body is that we never essentially tell it what to do for the long term. So here's an example. I don't recommend giving men or women testosterone. Very, very infrequently, as in pretty much almost never. There are rare cases, right? If someone, let's say they had testicular cancer and a male had his testes removed, maybe there would be then some testosterone replacement at a lower level. Okay, so I can say there's always an exception to the rule. There's no doubt about it. But I also don't recommend giving women estrogen. For the most part, I really don't. What I recommend is giving the precursor to those, which would be dihydroepiandrosterone, or DHEA, which has amazing research on it. But for anyone under the age of 55 or 60, I actually don't recommend it for longer term use yet. And then when your levels decline, I give you just the right amount that would boost your DHEA, that would also then boost your testosterone and estrogen to normal levels. But remember, I'm never giving testosterone or estrogen. I'm giving your body the precursor, and then your body gets to decide. I actually think it's the safest way. I think it's the best way to not get cancer And right now, the jury's still out in my mindset of whether you want to give NAD to someone. I certainly do not recommend NAD pushes, like an IV full of that, just like I don't typically recommend long-term use of glutathione pushes. Every once in a while, yes. Glutathione as part of a protocol, yes. Would I recommend instead giving the precursors such as taurine, sulforaphane, N-acetylcysteine? That's what I would do, right? Lots of cruciferous vegetables. Okay, so having said that, I believe in everything that Dr. Sinclair, we are on the same page. Why? We're both going by research. We're both researchers at heart. I'm a researcher at heart, but I'm a clinician and he's more of a scientist in the lab. And neither one of those is better than the other because I will look at his research and then I will extrapolate the information for what then I will try to use in the real world. So there is no one career or position that's ever better than the other. I think he's very smart. Like I said, I'm working on a formula based on a lot of this research that I'm currently using myself, but it's 5 or 6 different items. And I always like to include those in one particular formula to make it easy for you. Because let's say you're using daily foundational protocol level 2 or level 3 like I am, right? So you're using 5 great products and it's like $5 a day. It's the same as like an ice. I just went out and I don't always do it, but I got an iced coffee. And I got an iced coffee and it came out to be like I'm weird with numbers. So it came out to be $4.23. And I just gave them a tip with it. And so I'm spending like $5.23 for an iced coffee. And I'm going to finish the iced coffee in probably 10 minutes. And I'm going to enjoy every second of it. There's no doubt about it. But here's the thing. Like the entire foundational protocol, which is all your vitamins and minerals for the day, all your antioxidants, it's your detox support, your liver support, your fiber, 15 grams of protein, 22 organic fruits and vegetables, 2.5 grams to 3 grams of omega-3 fish oil a day, 50 billion live probiotics in a delayed release capsule, as well as your digestive enzymes, is basically the same price. You know, it's completely insane as that iced coffee. And people are like, oh, I can't spend the $5. Well, like we're all spending it somewhere. But here's the thing. The reason I went off on that little tangent is that it is 5 products. So now and typically people are taking others, like they're taking maybe they're taking zinc or maybe they're taking something for their thyroid. So what I try to do is combine these into one. I know that this is way off topic and I've spent way too long on one question, so I do have to move on. But I agree with everything. The cryotherapy, to an extent, for sure. Sauna, absolutely. Running, yes, cardio, because cardio extends telomere length. Avoiding meat protein, yes, for the most part. Metformin, well, that's where the jury's like a little bit out. And I'm not necessarily against it, but I would certainly not use it for me, but not against it because I know the research is there. I would just use other things. Like I would use berberine. Berberine is a natural herbal-based product that has amazing effects with blood sugar and other factors in the body. So I'll talk more about that in the future. Darren, thank you for writing in. And I'm already off on my time, but that's okay. I mean, I enjoy the house calls. I enjoy the questions. And so if I don't get to as many questions, I don't get to as many questions. All right. Dani's up next. This question came in on June 24th. Hi, Dr. Cabral. I'm a recent listener of your show. My elder brother put me on to it. I learned so much and I've adopted some of your recommendations. I have a concern and wondered if it's normal. I know I shouldn't, but my on-the-go lifestyle has me drinking alkalinized bottled water. My urine is sometimes a bright yellow or bright green color. Even on days I don't take B vitamins. If I consume other water, it's normal clear or light yellow tinge. I'm wondering if the alkaline water has a negative effect or if it's a serious concern. Aside that, I'm a female, vata body type, fit, exercise regularly in my mid-20s, drink 6 to 8 glasses of water a day, keep up the great work. All right, Dani, thank you for writing in. When we look at yellow urine, especially bright neon yellow urine, we're typically looking at B vitamins. So it sounds like you have some excess B vitamins coming out in the urine. I did a whole podcast house call on this before. So you can just type in, if you go to stevencabral.com and you just type in like urine or type in neon urine, and we'll see if that comes up right now. I'll do one search today because I do want to make sure that I get to obviously as many questions as possible. And I know you're new to the show. So what I would do is for everyone out there, if you are new to the show, today is episode 1290. So if you type in neon urine at episode 562, you'll find that answer right there. But you'll know that it's harmless, water-soluble vitamins coming out, and most vatas need their electrolytes. Now, you may just not need as much as you're taking right now if your urine is that bright neon color. Okay. Sarah's up next. This has never been addressed. I have a desmoid tumor removed last year from my right abdominal rectus. I exercise twice a day, but can't seem to lose the tummy tire, where always before it was flat. I eat very healthy. All right, so I'm assuming the question is, did having this tumor removed cause you to gain belly fat? Well, a desmoid tumor is essentially a growth, and it's a growth inside of the connective tissue. It can grow between like ligaments, and ligaments can connect to tendons, and tendons can connect to muscles. Well, no, I shouldn't say, but typically benign. And yeah, that's that. So it's typically not cancer-based. And when you have it removed, you have it removed. And as long as they got all of it, that should be that with that. So let's see. Now, it should not cause any weight gain. Now, I know you have a direct correlation, so let's see if we can work on this. When you had the tumor removed, if it was a very stressful time, you could have raised cortisol levels. And as you raise cortisol levels, you begin to add typically more belly fats. So if you go to a webinar that I did, let's make sure this is the correct one, StephenCabral.com, and let's go to bioregulatory medicine, so BRMI. Okay, so StephenCabral.com/BRMI, you'll find a webinar I did on how cortisol, high blood sugar, inflammation, and weight gain are all connected. I would check that out. And I would just look at that. And then also, if you were put on antibiotics for the surgery, well, that could have caused then gut dysbiosis, which is an imbalance in gut bacteria, which then could cause gut permeability, poor digestion, increased inflammation, which could cause the water retention around the belly. So I'd look into those. That's most likely it. I'm not sure that it has anything to do with the actual surgery, in my opinion. But again, I don't know. I can't see you right now. So that is that. All right, Kelly's up next. Hello, Dr. Cabral. Could you please talk about lipedema? I have disproportionately larger lower half since puberty, which has caused me to cycle through extreme diets and eating disorders in an attempt to get rid of this weight. I have corrected estrogen dominance and been a long-term targeted insulin-resistant diet, but have not experienced weight loss, despite moderate caloric restriction and whole clean eating. Now I'm beginning to suspect that I have lipedema, and I feel rather hopeless. What interventions can you recommend besides dry brushing, rebounding, drinking lots of water? What other factors in a healthy lymph system? Thank you. All right, so let's go over this. I'd love to be able to maybe just talk, a little bit about, actually, I believe it's called lipedema. I may be pronouncing that correctly. My pronunciation of some words leaves a lot to be desired. But sure, well, let's talk about what it is, for people in general. And it's when body fat accumulates more towards the hips and legs. Like think about from the kneecaps to the top of the hip bone. So your kneecap is called the patella, and the top of that hip bone is called your iliac crest. And it's more predominant in women. And I'll tell you why in just a second, where more of the weight gain can come around the leg-based area. So two things with this. Genetics actually do matter where you hold body fat. So that is true, but it doesn't mean that you have to hold a lot of body fat there. But genetics do determine some of that. But also, higher levels of estrogen cause the weight gain oftentimes more in the hips and thighs. So just like you said, we have to correct blood sugar dysregularity, estrogen dominance. Those are the two biggest ones. So, and I would also look at thyroid. So the number one thing I could tell you to do is this, Kelly, is to run a thyroid adrenal hormone panel. It will show, and I want you to run it if you are premenopausal. I'd like you to run it right around day 21. It's okay if it's day 20 or day 22, but that's when I would like you to run it. And we will see your estrogen to progesterone ratio, because even if your estrogen levels are good, we need your progesterone levels high enough to balance estrogen. Okay. So that's really important. Then it will look at thyroid. It will look at testosterone. It will look at DHEA. It will look at, 4 markers for thyroid. It will look at your vitamin D levels, which are important for weight loss. And it will look at your insulin and hemoglobin A1C. So that's my best place to start, because we can for sure help you with this. And you're right on, yes, dry brushing, rebounding, manual lymph drainage, drinking your water, exercising near daily. It doesn't have to be, really crushing your body, but exercising near daily. And that's a good start. So then we'll help you with the hormones. Okay. All of those labs can be found at equilibriumnutrition.com. All right. Anonymous is up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. What are your thoughts on NAD IV treatments for overall anti-aging, anxiety, depression, Parkinson's, etc.? What are your thoughts on just IV vitamin therapy in general? There are many places popping up on various packages, Myers cocktails, glutathione, B vitamins, vitamin C, etc. How do they compare to taking just good quality supplements? I would think for people who are super depleted with serious gut issues, IV therapy could be helpful short term while also going through a gut healing program. Are there contraindications you think people should watch out for? Anytime my husband gets glutathione in his IV, for example, he feels super horrible and run down. It's so bad that he has to go home and stay in bed the rest of the day. I also have concerns that the customer may not always be aware of what form is being administered. Is it a methylated form of folate and not folic acid? Thanks so much for all you do. Anonymous, you sound like one of our integrative health practitioners. I feel like I should hire you for my team. You are exactly correct and you know the answer ahead of time. But for everybody else, why don't I answer that? And this goes back to our very first question of the day. So I didn't plan this. I always answer them in the order they came in. Darren asked, and I already answered that. So I'm just going to give you one more thought on it. But you already know, for sure, every once in a while, I do believe in a Myers cocktail. Myers cocktail is basically, you can kind of do it how you want, but usually there's some B vitamins. There's typically always magnesium and vitamin C in there. And it can be a great thing after a long flight where you might be exposed to all sorts of different germs and viruses, etc. But I'm not into mega vitamin therapy. I'm not. And so people know that I am a huge advocate of good quality nutritional supplements, but I'm also the most fiercest proponent of getting rid of all the garbage nutritional supplements, for the most part, all the ones you can find on Amazon and all the ones you find in CVS or Costco, etc. Now they're getting better, but they're still pretty terrible. You know, if you can buy a product for under like $19.95, think about what it costs to make that. $1, $2, like it's not a good quality product, just like you alluded to. Is it folic acid or is it methylfolate or active folate? Like there's a big difference, right? So I'm also not a proponent of mega dose of vitamin therapy. I just want to repeat that. We'll use it in the beginning. We'll go higher vitamin C. We'll go higher anything. We'll go higher whatever we need to fill up those stores. But for the most part, think about this. If you give someone just 100 times what they would normally get, what happens is the body has to process all that. And that's why your husband may be getting all the brain fog as well. Or he may not be able to process it, convert it, and get it out of his body. So there's always two sides to this. You just can't put everything in your body and say, okay, body, go to work, use it. No. There are proteins and enzymes and additional factors that need to be used to not only make that thing work, but also to then break it down and get it out of your body. You can't keep all of that in your body. Your body has to eliminate everything you put in it. It's going to store what it can and what it needs to use, but then it has to get rid of the rest. If not, it's toxic. Even a great product in excess is toxic. I mean, that goes for anything, right? Look at water. You can't just drink water willy-nilly without any minerals in it, or just distilled water as much as you want. It will wipe out your body of its minerals, right? So, okay, every once in a while, no problem with IV vitamin therapy, daily, weekly, or that's how you get your daily dose of your weekly dose of vitamins. Not a good thing. Your body needs a smaller dose of vitamins and minerals and amino acids and proteins, etc., on a daily basis. On a daily basis. It doesn't need it on a weekly basis. So think about the same thing. It's the same exact thing, but people are not thinking of it this way. What's better, 5 days a week of 30 minutes of exercise, or 2 hours or 2.5 hours 1 day a week of exercise? What do you think is better? Daily, moderate exercise, 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, we'll say, or getting 150 minutes in 1 day, right? Think about it that way. Same with vitamins. All right, Amanda's up next. Hi, Dr. Brawl. I was wondering what you think of fecal transplants to treat gut dysbiosis. Thanks, Amanda. All right, Amanda, I've answered this before. I'm just going to go to StephenCabral.com and I'm going to type in fecal, and we'll see if that doesn't pull up too many different podcasts. And then we'll have that answer right there. Fecal. I talked about it with autism in the gut on 1169. Okay, so the main show would have been 1169. That was a Friday review I did on a research study on autism in the gut, where it did show that it was effective. But here's the thing. It is a conventional medicine approach to gut dysbiosis. And in my opinion, 99.99 out of 100, you're going to be able to correct way before you need to get to that point, because that's not a cure-all as well. And I'm not a huge advocate, because you have to make sure that you're getting good quality, I know that sounds strange, but good quality stool typically from a family member, because you're literally taking in the bacteria and DNA of someone else and their gut microbiome. So here's the thing. When someone has gut-based issues, if it's really serious, run an organic acids test, run a stool test, and if possible, run a food sensitivity test. You'll find out what you have. We'll wipe out the bad bacteria. We'll begin to slowly replace it through a very systematic effect that works really, really well. We then replace and rejuvenate the gut. The rejuvenating the gut then actually seals up the gut wall as well, because remember, a fecal transplant does not necessarily seal up the gut wall, and it doesn't necessarily get rid of candida and yeast. What it does is it hopes to put in more good bacteria to get rid of other negative-based bacterial strains like Clostridium or Clostridium difficile. I don't recommend going there first. I don't think it's necessary. For the most part, 99.999 out of 100 times. All right, Amanda's up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. Do you know any ways to get rid of blackheads? I don't really struggle with acne anymore, but I have had blackheads on my nose for long as I can remember. I've tried charcoal, clay masks, and nothing seems to work. Okay, let me give you a couple topical-based things first, and then we're going to work internally as well, okay? So the topical-based things, I want you to look up on my podcast, French green clay or like natural facial on my podcast, okay? And what that's going to do is that's going to show you how we use two different methodologies. Bentonite clay or French green clay mixed with a little bit of water, make a mask out of it. It works fantastically well. You can do that for every other day for a week or two straight, and then you wouldn't want to do it too much, maybe once a week after that, because you don't want it to be too drying on the face. Okay, now the next thing you could do is actually a natural chemical peel for the face, and that would be mixing your French green clay or bentonite clay with a little bit of apple cider vinegar instead of water. Now, the mask is not going to dry as well, but that will actually take off just a little bit of the dermal layer. If you feel it burning, remember, take it off sooner. And that is that. Now, the other thing too is that some people tend to build up a little bit more oil under the skin easier. What I'd like you to do is just make sure that you're sweating more often. I recommend a sauna, but of course you can sweat during exercise as well, which both are great. So I'm a big fan of those. The other thing too is you can just use apple cider vinegar as a toner. So you can wash your face and then you can use a little bit of apple cider vinegar. If it's too strong just by itself, you could use a tablespoon or two and a little bit of water to dilute it. And then you could use that as a toner, let it dry or just dab it off your face, and then you could use your natural oils, which would be like a jojoba oil. You could use, well, your favorite oil-based moisturizers if you need that. So you can also do 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar in water per day, which works really well for a lot of people. Another thing, if that's not necessarily working, there's another way, and you can use a little bit of Manuka honey before bed. You can put that on your nose if that's where the blackheads tend to grow. And then I always recommend looking at gut-based issues. So just make sure that the gut is good, the gut is clean, but between sweating, opening up those pores, getting all of that out, eating foods that you're not sensitive to, using that as a topical-based solution, that should be the ticket. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in today. Great questions. As always, I would expect nothing less from our community. And get ready. Tomorrow, Motivation and Mindset Monday, brand new show. Always excited to start the week off right. I hope you've had an amazing weekend. And as always, if this show is helpful, please do feel free to share it with anyone you believe it could serve.
I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stevencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.